Okay, I see my battery's about dead, so I'll quickly do this. You won't see the whole thing before it dies. But this is just to get off these fuzzies and so Okay, now I've finished sanding these side rails, and before I go on to the next step, I'm going to stain the inside of these. A lot of people build their whole cabinet and then they stain it and urethane it or whatever kind of finish they're going to use after it's all done. But I found that it's a lot easier, especially for the inside, where it's hard to get at. You get little corners up inside, and you know, you get the corner where your back and your bottom and your side all come together. You get that little point down in there. It's real hard to get the stain in there and then get it spread evenly. So I like to do the inside as much as I can before I start assembly. And you can see here on the bench, I'm using Minwax products. They're good, and I've been using them for a lot of years, and I see no reason to change. These are brand new cans. The first thing you got to do is mix this stain up. Because if I pull this out, you'll notice, I think you can see on the bottom of that as it drains down, it's a big clump there at the bottom. It's real dark. That's because some of the actual pigment has settled to the bottom, just from setting on the shelf. So I'm going to stir this up very lightly. Doesn't take a whole lot of stirring. And then I'm going to use a sponge brush to apply it. And I will apply it on both pieces with the sponge brush. And I'm just using a scrap piece of oak that I had laying around for that. Take the sponge brush, the smaller one here, it'll fit in the can, like this, and bring it right over here, and I'm going to apply it quite liberally. I want it to sink down in. This is a special walnut. That's the color that my dad used on his, so it's the color that I'm using to try and match it up. The one thing that I can't produce very well, especially seeing as how I don't have the actual other bookcase here, is I can't reproduce the years of patina that have put onto it from being used. But it'll gain its own after a while. The bookcase that I am duplicating was built in Massachusetts, where my dad lived the majority of his life, except for about 6 or 7 years that he spent in Africa as a missionary, and the first few years of his ministry life were actually in Maine. And for some of you guys that live up in Maine, you might be familiar with little villages or towns called Harmony, and let me see, what was the name of the other place? He pastored 3 churches at one time up there, as I understand it anyway. I don't know, that was before I was born. Harmony, Dover Foxcroft was another one. I'm trying to think what the third one was. My oldest brother was born up there, I believe. And then he felt the call to go to Africa as a missionary. And near the end of his missionary term, in 1949, I was born. I'm the only one of the 7 children in my family that was born overseas. They went over with 3, came back with 4. That's just a little bit of my family history, a little bit of my dad's story. So we're going to brush this all on here. And filling in those grooves. I didn't bother sanding too much down in there, just getting the fuzzies off, because those are going to be buried. You won't ever see them. Okay, so we got it all covered. I'm only doing the flat, I'm not doing the edges at all. The edges I need to stay relatively free of stain for the moment, because I have to attach other pieces of wood to them. Seal that up. The stain will hold itself for quite a while. It won't harden the brush too much, but just in case, I happen to have a baggie here. Put this in the baggie, and I'll wrap this up pretty good. I don't have a rubber band. Maybe one of you guys got a rubber band on you I could put around there? Yeah, like that. That'll seal it up well enough. Now then, after that's set on there for a little bit, you do what I did. You go to your bureau and you pick out a t-shirt that doesn't fit you anymore, and they make great wiping rags. And this will actually darken down more again when you put the urethane on. And the urethane I am using, as it dries and as it ages, it will give it a little bit more of an amber tint to it. So it'll darken the whole thing down. Nothing fancy, just wipe it off. Not too worried about down in the grooves. So we're going to let that dry for a while, and then we'll come back and we'll work on the next step.